My name is Gabrielle Simone Smith. People say every story starts with a moment of triumph or tragedy, but mine began somewhere in between, the quiet place where you realize no one's coming to clap for you. I used to think if I just worked hard enough, stayed patient enough, loved deep enough, my family would finally see me. Turns out they already did, just not the way I hoped. They saw the bills paid, the lights on, the car that somehow always had gas. They saw what I could give, not who I was. Graduating with my master's was supposed to change that. It was supposed to mean something. But when I crossed that stage and looked into a crowd of strangers, there was no familiar face waving back. No proud tears. Just me, smiling for photos that no one in my family would ever frame. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself freedom sometimes looks like loneliness before it feels like peace. But deep down, I knew something had cracked that day, something that had been breaking for years. And once it broke, there was no going back. Because I was done earning love that should have been free. 2 days after graduation, my phone buzzed with a text from my mother. No congratulations. No, we're proud of you. Just, hey Gabrielle, can you send $2,100 for Danielle's Sweet 16? We already booked the venue. I read it 3 times, hoping I'd miss something. A thank you, a question mark, anything that hinted at care. But it was just another request dressed as expectation. That was how it always went. I gave, they took, and we called it love. Growing up, it started small, lunch money borrowed and never returned, part-time job checks that mysteriously became family funds. I remember one Christmas when I used my first paycheck from the grocery store to buy Danielle a tablet because Mom said she deserved something nice. I didn't even get a card. I told myself that's what good daughters did. They filled in the gaps and smiled through the emptiness. But reading that message, something inside me hardened. I thought about the nights I'd stayed up writing papers after double shifts, the debt I'd paid down, the diploma I'd earned without their applause. I realized they weren't blind to my effort. They were comfortable with it. That text wasn't just another ask. It was a reminder of the role they'd written for me. Provider, problem solver, peacekeeper. And for the first time, I wondered what it would mean to stop playing it. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my phone, the message still open. My thumb hovered over the keyboard for a long time before I finally typed. Congrats, Danielle. Here's something to start with. Then I sent exactly $1. No explanation. No emoji. Just silence. It felt petty for a second, then honest. A single dollar for every year I'd traded my peace for their approval. I locked my phone, stood up, and walked to the front door. The old brass key jingled in my hand as I turned it for the last time, replacing it with a new lock I'd bought that morning without even knowing why. When the door clicked shut, the quiet wrapped around me like a blanket and a warning. It was too still, too unfamiliar, but it was mine. I sat on the floor, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the soft buzz of the street outside. For once, no one was calling my name. No one was asking for anything. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt weightless. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't plan. I just breathed. Because somewhere between the old lock and the new one, I realized this wasn't rebellion. It was recovery. And maybe peace doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes, it just sounds like your own heartbeat in a room you finally get to call your own. The knock came 3 days later, firm, measured, official. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers standing on my porch. My stomach sank, but not from fear, from recognition. Only my mother would take it this far. I opened the door halfway. Can I help you? One of them, a tall man with kind eyes, adjusted his badge. Miss Smith? We got a call from your mother. She said she's worried about your safety. Of course she did. I almost laughed. That was her favorite disguise. Concern as control. I invited them in, calm but trembling underneath. My apartment was spotless. Textbooks stacked neatly, a candle burning low. The picture of me in my graduation gown sat on the counter like evidence of a life she didn't want to see. They asked a few questions. Was I okay? Had there been any recent disputes? Did I feel safe? I answered each one clearly, my voice steady. I even offered them water. The woman officer looked around, then back at me. You seem fine. Sometimes when people set boundaries, others panic. Happens more than you'd think. That sentence stayed with me long after they left. When the door shut behind them, I stood there in the silence again, but it felt different this time. Not lonely. Not heavy. Just true. My mother had sent the police to my door. And somehow, that was the clearest proof yet that I'd finally done something right. A week later, I sat at my kitchen table with a mug of cold coffee, trying to shake off the leftover tension. Something told me not to ignore the unease, so I opened my laptop and logged into my credit report, just to check. It was supposed to be routine. Instead, it became the moment everything shifted. 2 new accounts, Capital One and Discover, open within the last month. My name, my social security number, my parents' address. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. My brain scrambled for another explanation, maybe a mistake, maybe fraud from some stranger across the country. But then I saw the transactions: event decor, catering, limousine rental. Every charge spelled one thing: Danielle's Sweet 16. I pressed my palms against the table, trying to steady my breathing. The betrayal didn't come like fire. It came like ice, slow, numbing, spreading through every memory that had once felt like love. She'd used my name, my credit, my future. I clicked through the statements, staring at the forged signature that mimicked mine just enough to pass. My mother hadn't just crossed a line, she'd erased it. For years, I'd told myself her control came from love. Now I knew it came from entitlement, the kind that doesn't flinch when it steals from its own child. I closed my laptop gently, like I was shutting a casket. The version of me that still believed family meant safety had just been laid to rest. The next morning, I woke up before dawn. The apartment was still dark, but my mind was already running. For once, I didn't feel helpless. I felt focused. I made coffee, opened my laptop again, and started recording. I called my mother. The line barely rang before she answered, voice sweet and sharp at the same time. Gabrielle, I was just about to call you. Danielle's party is going to be beautiful. I hit record on my phone. I bet it is, I said evenly. Especially since I'm apparently paying for it. There was a pause. Then the rehearsed guilt trip. You're being dramatic. It's still family money. I let her talk. Every word became evidence. When she finally slipped and said, I only used your name because your credit's better, I stopped the recording. That was all I needed. By noon, I'd printed everything. The credit reports, the forged applications, screenshots of her texts. I slid them into a folder next to my framed diploma. Proof of the 2 educations I'd earned, one in data analytics, the other in survival. I chose a diner indicator for the meeting. Neutral ground. Public enough to stay safe. Before heading out, I slipped my old door lock into my bag, a small reminder of what I'd already changed. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about reclaiming what was mine. My name, my credit, my peace. And this time I had the receipts. The diner was half full when I walked in, the kind of place where conversations hum just loud enough to make the truth harder to dodge. My parents and Danielle were already at a booth by the window. Mom was dressed like she was meeting a bank manager, all composure and control. I slid into the seat across from them and set my folder on the table. No greetings. No small talk. I know about the credit cards, I said quietly. Her smile froze. Dad shifted uncomfortably, eyes glued to his coffee. Danielle just looked confused, like she hadn't been told what this meeting was really about. I opened the folder, laying out the printouts one by one. My name, my social security number, her handwriting. Capital One. Discover. Both in my name. Both sent to your address. Mom scoffed, crossing her arms. You're overreacting, Gabrielle. We were going to pay it back. You've always had a good head for money. Why make a scene? I took a breath, steady and deliberate. This isn't a scene. It's a boundary. She leaned forward, voice sharp. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? I met her eyes. You destroyed this family when you decided my name was worth more to you than my love. For the first time, she didn't have an answer. I gathered my papers, stood up, and left her sitting there, surrounded by evidence, but stripped of power. Danielle's Sweet 16 was everything my mother had promised. White balloons floating like clouds against the high ceilings, tables draped in sequined cloths, platters of fried chicken, macaroni and cheese, collard greens, and sweet tea laid out buffet style. The music thumped through the Midtown event hall, a mix of upbeat tracks that made it impossible not to feel the rhythm in your chest. My mother had even rented a small photo booth with props, feather boas, oversized sunglasses, and kids and cousins lined up, laughing as they posed. I stood across the street, hidden behind a row of parked cars, watching guests glide in, adjusting their dresses and sneakers, faces bright with excitement. I wasn't there to make a scene. I just needed closure. 15 minutes in, 2 unmarked cars pulled up. The music seemed to hiccup, as if it knew something was off. Police officers stepped out first, followed by a woman in a sharp blazer carrying a folder, the bank investigator, Lauren Hill. I'd met her the day before, handed over every document I could find. She'd promised discretion. Inside, the room shifted like a wave. The microphone crackled, and the DJ stumbled over a name. My mother's smile froze, stretched too tight over panic. Danielle, mid-spin with a glow stick in hand, stopped laughing, eyes wide, scanning the crowd. Cousins whispered. Phones came up, capturing a moment no one yet understood. I didn't need words. I could read the room. Shock. The lie too big to hold together any longer. Officers approached my mother, who tried to straighten her spine, clutching her purse like a shield. They escorted her outside for questioning. The music stopped. Silence stretched across the hall, heavy and thick. Guests shuffled awkwardly, murmuring behind pursed lips. The Sweet 16, supposed to be Danielle's crowning moment, dissolved into tension and unasked questions. I didn't cheer or cry. I just watched the end of something I'd carried for far too long. Justice that night didn't come in fireworks or grand statements. It wore quiet confidence, walked away, and didn't need applause. Months later, I step into my downtown apartment and set my bag down. Sunlight streams through the blinds, falling across my framed diploma, the employee badge clipped neatly to a corkboard, and the brass lock I replaced months ago. Each object tells a story, not the story my family wanted, but the one I built for myself. Work keeps me busy, but it doesn't define me the way my family once did. I log in, answer emails, analyze data with a quiet confidence I didn't know I could carry. The apartment is mine. The rhythm is mine. The silence is mine. And this silence isn't heavy anymore. It's earned. I make coffee, sip it slowly, and glance at the lock on the counter. A reminder of the night I stopped asking for permission to exist on my own terms. The moments I realized I didn't need their approval to breathe, to laugh, to dream of a life that didn't include their control. Sometimes I think about family, about Danielle, about the years I carried what wasn't mine. I don't feel anger like I used to. I feel distance. Clarity. I shuffle into my kitchen, sunlight catching the edges of my apartment just right. I scoop dark roast coffee into the French press, the grounds releasing that rich, earthy smell that makes the morning feel like mine. I pour it into my favorite chipped mug, add cream and brown sugar, and stir. Soft music hums from the speaker, smooth and soulful, drifting through the room. I lean against the counter, sipping slowly, letting the warmth settle in my chest. The city outside hums and pulses, but here, everything moves to my rhythm. No one to check in with. No one to impress. Just me, my coffee, my music, my quiet claim on the morning. This is peace. This is freedom. And finally, it's completely, entirely mine. Did you enjoy the story? If so, hit like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe. Thanks for watching Revenge with Keisha. See you next time.